Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Gift of Knowledge interview series. These interviews are intended to create a higher level of awareness and education for all those that listen to them, and ultimately, to make us all more successful in our chosen careers. Please enjoy this informative piece that is being provided to you by your loan professional. Today, I bring in a special guest, someone whose reputation precedes her. Marty Rodriguez is someone who I have heard and known about for quite some time. First through Brett Figueroa, whose interview resides in the Loan Toolbox conference calling archive, who used to work for Anthony Robbins and is someone who is a huge fan of Marty Rodriguez. And then our very close friend Greg Frost, who actually went to school with Marty Rodriguez many years ago and who stayed in very close communication with her over the course of time. But Marty Rodriguez, her reputation goes far beyond that of having a friendship with Brett and Greg. Marty Rodriguez is the number one real estate agent in the world for Century 21 for several different years during the 1990s. In fact, she was the top agent for all Century 21 agents on the face of this earth in 1991, 92, 93, and 97. Just to give you a snapshot as to the amazing production numbers that she's been able to generate. In the calendar year of 2003, she and her team closed $169 million worth of transactions, which is a total of 437.5 closed deals. So needless to say, we have someone who we are very fortunate enough to be talking to today that's going to be able to add a tremendous amount of value. Marty, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Tim. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you here. We're in a recording studio in Southern California to try to paint a little bit of a picture. We've managed to get Marty to be kind enough to take a little bit of time out of her busy schedule to share some of her insights and strategies. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about your tenure in the real estate business. Share with us when you got into the real estate business. And from a listener's perspective, just tell us a little bit about your evolution as to kind of maybe when you finally figured it out, what year, and what were maybe a couple of the key components of what you figured out early on in your career that allowed you to go through some incremental growth.
Actually, I started in the business in 1978. And lucky for me, I came to an office where I had a really good man who was a great teacher. And so I think I had a great foundation that I learned from Jim. Jim was not a great salesperson, but Jim was a great teacher. And there's a big difference. And I'm lucky that I was able to, meet somebody like that, which a lot of people today, they go to real estate offices and they're more worried about how much commission they're going to make and not, how am I going to learn this business and learn it well so I can make a lot of money. And I think that's, where people, when they're brand new in the business, really need to, look at that. What am I going to learn from these people? Who's going to teach me the most? Who's really going to teach me the business to be the best? And so I was fortunate that I met someone like that. And as the years went on, and it was tough because I remember doing comparables, pulling comparable books, not computers. So I think that agents are lucky today. They can do a CMA, within a minute. It would take me hours to do a CMA because I'd have to pull every comparable book to put my CMA together. But you know what? I thank God every day for that because I think I learned the business better than most people and really understood it a lot better. And I would go on Caravan every single week. I was the Caravan chairman for the board for 12 years. And what was really sad about that is that the same people showed up every week and were the productive people, the people who really knew the business. I got to know the neighborhoods. I could describe the houses from my desk. I didn't even have to go out there because that's how well I learned the neighborhoods and the school districts and what was important to my client. And then in 1989, which was the very peak of the market, and the market started to decline in price, were actually my most productive years. Because you see, previous to that, the market was charging itself, so agents were order takers. The true real estate agents and the true salespeople really showed how well they could perform when the market switched on them. And so I knew that I could still sell no matter whether the market was going up or down, because what I realized is that buyers were still going to buy and sellers were still going to sell. So actually, in a declining real estate market, I increased my production.
How important, it's interesting that you've hit on a couple of things that those that are loan officers and members of Loan Toolbox know that I'm passionate about. First of all, the perfect analogy, because we're talking about houses here, is that you didn't put the roof on the house before you laid the foundation and built the framing and structure. And I think that what you've isolated is that those early years of having a mentor and having someone to teach you the basic building blocks, the essential critical components of being a foundationally strong real estate agent really were a great springboard for you going forward. In a non market controlled environment, meaning real estate is taking off and exploding in a retracting environment, which we're likely, by the way, to experience here in the not too distant future. You kind of described how that kind of created some separation for you. How important is it in a slower market for you to become creative, and how important is it for you to master a niche in that type of a market?
Well, for me, I know when the market was increasing in the late 80s, there were agents that, wanted to specialize only in the high-end market. For me, I specialize in every aspect of the market, and that's why I was also able to survive. So for me, I don't care if it's $100,000, condo or it's $1 million house. I know that every sale is just important to that individual, and I treat it that way, and that's why I'm able to work every aspect of the market. So when the market was going down and your low end was selling, I had also captured that market, and I was able to, keep moving real estate. And I think the other thing too, when the market was, the prices were increasing, it brought in a lot of agents into the marketplace who were in it for the short time, and like we have now, the commission cutting, the disrespect of the marketplace, the disrespect for other agents, which is really, really frustrating, for us, because we work hard. This is our industry. We don't want to prostitute this business. We don't want to put ourselves out of business, and you see that happening a lot in today's market, and that needs to stop. You know what? I respect my other fellow realtors. I want them to respect me. I want them to make money as well as, we want to make money for our hard work. So in order to maintain that, I think that we hold ourselves at Century 20 Marty Rodriguez to a very high standard. We believe that we have worth, we have value, and we bring that to the table, to our clients. And what I think I've established is image and a reputation that people know that you want to sell your house, you want to buy a house, the place to go, is Marty Rodriguez. Marty's going to represent you well. In fact, the other day, a client called me back and says, you know what? We want to list our house with you. He goes, and you weren't you weren't the cheapest, but we feel that you're the most professional. And it was so nice.
Make you feel great.
Yeah, so nice to hear that, because it wasn't about how much commission he was going to pay me. I think he felt that not only we'd represent it, but he'd probably get top dollar because of his representation.
Let's talk. We'll talk about the image, and maybe that'll be answered somewhat in this call. We'll talk about the image in a few minutes, because I think that's really important what you highlighted. But let's go back to your roots a little bit, sticking kind of with the evolution of Marty Rodriguez as a real estate agent. All the way back to the late 70s and maybe even specifically and more importantly 1990, 91, 92, 93. I mean, those were just enormous years for you in a market that was not a hot market.
Right.
What are maybe the top 2 or 3 things that you did back at the beginning and in those years in the early 90s that really created massive separation from your competitor that allowed you to be number one in the world?
Back to the early 80s.
Sure, early 80s.
Early 80s, because actually, I was selling real estate when interest rates were 21%, 81, 82, 83. There was a lot of creative financing going on, but, I never stepped over the line where people were in trouble, because a lot of people did in that time, taking loans subject to that should not have been taken, and lenders coming in calling the loans on them. I never walked over that boundary, because for me, it's always about doing the right thing and protecting my client. Tim, let me take you back to the beginning, tell you a little bit about, first of all, where I came from. I'm one of 11 children.